Okay, let's get started. For all of those who don't know me, my name is Tom Blanchard, and I am the president of Las Vegas Realtors. I want to welcome you to the fourth of a series of webinars put on by Nevada Realtors that focus on evictions, rentals, and now rental relief programs. Today's program is offered in conjunction with CALV, the Commercial Alliance of Las Vegas, and we ask CALV to invite members from all sister organizations, whether you are a realtor member or not. This information is so important for our industry. We wanted to share it as widely as we could. I want to thank all the attendees for joining us. We have a ton of commercial professionals joining us today, and we will be recording today's webinar, and that will be posted on NVR's YouTube channel and will be provided to CALV and LVR for posting there as well. So please take a round of applause and welcome CALV President Robin Sivich. Robin, it's all yours, my dear.
Thank you, Tom. And thank you for joining us, everyone, today to listen to Shawnee Coleman. She's the Director of Community and Economic Development, as she explains the Clark County Commercial Rental Assistance Program and also their PPP reimbursement program. And she's going to give you a better name for that. But I have three panelists here that are going to help me today as well to facilitate questions. Bobby Miracle, CCIM SOR, Natalie Allred, CPM, and Chris McGarry, CCIM CPM. And they will come on after Shawnee gives her presentation. So we want to welcome Shawnee Coleman, who's going to take the first 10 to 20 minutes to explain the programs, and then we'll take questions and answers after. While you are listening to the presentation, if you have questions, please go ahead and put those in the chat function. So now let's go ahead and turn it over and welcome Shawnee Coleman. You're on mute, Shawnee.
Okay, can everybody hear me now? I told myself to remind myself to take myself off mute, but
you're good.
Anyway, thank you guys so much for having me. Really excited to bring these programs to small businesses in Clark County and to landlords. You know, we put this particular program together, the rental assistance, with the thought of landlords in mind. Sometimes with everything going on, when businesses struggle, sometimes rent becomes one of the last things that they think about. And Clark County recognized that when someone doesn't pay rent, they're not just impacting their own business, but they're also impacting the landlord, which is a business of its own. And so we wanted to do something that recognized that and help to eliminate some of those challenges. So the goal here is to keep a business in its location, but also to provide some financial support to landlords who may have their own mortgages to pay and have commercial lenders that are hounding them. And while the governor's moratorium on eviction was good for our local businesses, some of the landlords did not get some of the same relief from commercial lenders. And so hopefully this will provide a little bit of help to them in that scenario. So as Robin mentioned, Clark County has two programs. I'll go through the first program, which is the rental assistance, and the second program is the protective retrofit, and I'll go through that next. So rental assistance, Clark County will cover up to $10,000 in back rent for small businesses. And the business size that we're looking to target here are businesses that are 20 employees or less. And so that includes sole proprietors, as long as you have a commercial location. And so some of the things that we ask for regarding the program is obviously that you have some type of lease. We won't cover month-to-month leases. The leases need to be in effect and valid through at least December 31st of this year. We want to support as many businesses as we can, but if you're already on your way out the door, then we want to focus on people who maybe have a little bit longer time to stay in their location. But here are a couple of things that you can do. We don't require that the lease be any length of time. So it doesn't have to be a 5-year lease. So I've gotten a couple of calls from landlords who maybe have tenants on month to month because of the pandemic, but they're willing to go to a lease that's a year long just to get the tenants beyond that December 31st date. So you can get a little creative with that if you're currently month to month and willing to do something a little bit more long term. It's for unincorporated Clark County. If any of you were familiar with the last program we did, it was actually available to some of the incorporated cities. Some changes that happened between now and then. Clark County actually distributed CARES Act dollars. We're using federal CARES Act money to establish these grant programs. We actually distributed those directly to the cities themselves. So Henderson got their own pot of money, North Las Vegas, and so they have the opportunity to establish their own programs. And so now our programs are available to unincorporated Clark County. Because of that, if you're operating a small business, you're required to have a business license. So we require a Clark County business license. One of the requirements that's been a little bit controversial, it was controversial in our last program, so we tried to soften the blow here, is the requirement and the limitations regarding SBA funding. Initially, our Clark County commissioners wanted to ensure that people who had not received any money, whether from the federal government, were the first in line to receive money from Clark County. And so initially you could not have received $0 from Clark County. Now we've raised that threshold to $25,000. What we've learned from data and what we've learned from listening to small businesses, that some of them received some money. They may have received $600, they may have received $1,000. And for a business that may have been shut down for 3 months, that's not a lot of money. And so we raised our threshold to $25,000. So as long as you haven't received more than $25,000 in SBA funding, you're still eligible for a Clark County program. If you've received Clark County's other grant, the stabilization grant, which was just a straight working capital grant, it was either $5,000 or $10,000. You're not eligible for rental assistance because you've already received money and you can use that money to pay your rent. We talked about the lease agreement. Business operations. So again, with limited funds, we had to figure out, okay, how and what businesses do we help? And so we require that you've been in operation for at least 6 months. And so that takes you back to September 15th. So as long as your business license states that you've been operating or you have a business license showing operations before September 15th, then you're good to go with us. One of the federal requirements, which we try to make it easy for people to show, is that you must have a hardship related to COVID. And that's actually something that trickles down from the guidelines we received from federal government regarding CARES Act money. And so what we ask is that you provide profit and loss statements or balance sheets. So that way we can see, okay, how was your business doing prior to COVID? And then we can look at the months of March, April, May to kind of see, okay, how you were impacted during COVID. Was your business completely shut down so you have no revenue? So that's how we define hardship, and that's what we're looking for to support the federal government's required of a hardship related to COVID. And then finally, federal, state, and county tax liens. We can't have liens. We don't want the money to go toward, which in this case it wouldn't, but we don't want the money to supplant or go towards paying taxes that obviously should have been paid prior. So if you have liens, then you wouldn't be eligible to participate. And so kind of how the process goes, everything is done online. You can go to the county's website, which is clarkcountynv.gov. /economic development. Once you're on the economic development page, there is another page called economic recovery. And there you will see the 3 grants that we have. The stabilization grant is closed, but the rental assistance grant and also the protective retrofit grants are there. You pull up the page and there'll be a bunch of information regarding eligibility. There's information there on what you can tell your landlord. We know some landlords with the moratorium lifted by the governor on July 1st, some of them are already moving forward with eviction information and actions. And we're hoping that they'll be a little bit more patient and work with their tenants on this. And then there's also some information that maybe that's not specific to the grant, but one of the things that we helped fund with our CARES Act is legal assistance. So Legal Aid of Southern Nevada traditionally does not help small businesses. And so there was a recognition that there are a lot of small businesses out there that don't have legal representation. They've never had to work with an attorney before, and attorneys can be expensive. And given the current situation that we're in, it may not be, they may not be able to contact attorneys. And so the partnership that we have with Legal Aid of Southern Nevada can help small businesses if they have questions regarding their lease, even if they participate in our grant or not, if they have questions regarding their lease, if they want to negotiate or they need help negotiating with their landlord, if they have general legal questions, then the program through Legal Aid of Southern Nevada, that small business program, is something that they can utilize. And in addition to that, we also did a partnership with UNLV, the Small Business Development Center, for 2 reasons. One, Small Business Development Center is funded by the Federal Small Business Administration, and they have a number of tools that may be useful for small businesses. But in addition to that, these consultants at the Small Business Development Center are trained in our application process. And so if there's a small business who's never had to put together a profit and loss statement before, something that we're looking for in our grant application, the Small Business Development Center can help them through that process. They also have Spanish-speaking consultants there. So if you have tenants, or if there are landlords that their primary language, their first language is Spanish, and they need a little bit of help, the Small Business Development Center can help them with that. And so the application is completely online. It's powered by Zoom grants. So if you're on Clark County's economic development webpage and you hit the rental assistance button, you go all the way down to the bottom, you'll see a link that says view and submit application. That actually takes you to a third party called Zoom Grants. Zoom Grants does require you to create a username and password, but this is actually a good thing. The username and password allows an applicant to maybe fill out part of the application, but if they need to stop to maybe find a copy of their lease agreement, they can do that and they won't lose any of their data. So, and then additionally, what it does is if they want to apply for the second grant, the protective retrofit, which you can apply for both grants at the same time, you do need 2 applications. It allows you to transfer some of the basic data like your business name and address to the next application without starting anew. So that's pretty much the rental assistance program and some of the complementary services that we've wrapped around that program to provide additional support to small businesses. And with that, Robin, I'm happy to stop here and answer questions about the rental assistance program, or would you want me to go through the next program and then take questions at the end?
I think we can go ahead and move on to the next program, and then we'll just take them all at the end. I think it'd be
perfect.
Best.
So the second program that we currently have available is what we're calling the Business Protective Retrofit Program. And really what this program about is health and safety. We want businesses to be able to operate as healthy and safely as possible. through some of the CDC standards of social distancing. And so we recognize that a number of businesses probably had to do things, for reopening, install plexiglass, or maybe they had to purchase large amounts of PPE, or maybe they decided to install no-touch doors or no-touch sinks, or maybe they wanted to, purchase hand sanitizer stations so they can put throughout their facility for their employees and their customers. That's not an expense they normally would have had. And so what we want to do is we want to reimburse businesses that had to cover some of those costs. So Clark County will reimburse up to $5,000 in those expenses. And the list that you see there is just kind of generic. These are things that that a lot of businesses have had to do. But there are things on the list that aren't on the list that we will also cover. So if you have something that you're not sure of, then definitely just give me a call. And some of those things could be like, will we cover hypersensitive or ultra sensitive HEPA filtration systems, to help filter out bacteria in the air? And the answer is yes. Will we cover some UV protective items, UV light that clears bacteria? Will we cover those things? The answer is yes. Some similarities with the rental assistance, again, for small businesses in unincorporated Clark County, so 20 employees or less. The same requirement, no more than $25,000 in SBA money received. Could not have received money from the stabilization grant. Again, that's the working capital grant. But a little bit different on the start date of a business. We want to cover as many businesses as possible. So for this particular grant, you've only had to been in business since March 1st of this year. So if you started your business on February 28th, you were eligible to participate in this grant. You still have to show a hardship. So some way, shape, or form, you need to show us that during the months of March, April, May, because of COVID, you were losing money. And even though you had to buy these things, you really couldn't afford them. So we can help cover the cost for you. The application will require, it's a reimbursement grant. So the application will require you to submit copies of your receipts or paid invoices. And we will pay you based on the receipts and invoices that we receive. So it's up to $5,000. So if you had to spend, $2,700, you'll get $2,700. If you spent $10,000, then we'll pay you the full $5,000. So those are the two programs. Again, Small Business Development Center, Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada are available to provide assistance if you have questions. Legal questions, obviously, Legal Aid of Southern Nevada. And if you just have questions about the application and resources available to small business, the Small Business Development Center is there. Same online process using that third-party Zoom grant. Again, username, password, interchangeable for the applications. Once you set up an account, you're good to go and you can apply for a number of different programs. But those are the two programs that we have, and we hope that they're useful to small businesses and commercial lenders or landlords. And so I'm happy to take any questions that may be out there.
Great. Thanks. Let's go ahead and get all our panelists back on so that we can help facilitate those questions. And for our attendees, we are in listen only mode for you. So please, if you have questions, go ahead and put those in the chat box. Let's go ahead and start the first question. I'll do the first question. So what is the timing? So the application process is already open. So once the application is in, about how long does it take for approval and then actual payment to get the payment out to the landlords?
So our application process, we're doing an application window. So applications will be accepted July 21st. So we started accepting applications yesterday through August 4th. Once we close the window, it takes us about 2 weeks to go through the applications, just make sure everything is available. And hopefully this time we did it slightly different. Once we've kind of or selected companies through this pre-award, there'll be some documents that they'll need to get to us. So we'll need a W-9 just to confirm their tax ID number. And there's a grant agreement that they sign. It basically just says, yes, I participate. I want to participate in Clark County's grant program, and I understand what I'm getting the money for, kind of thing. And once they sign that and get it back to us, it usually takes us about 5 to 7 business days to get money out. We do electronic direct deposit. So as long as we have valid bank information, we can get the money out the door pretty quickly. So I say in this process, if we close applications on August 4th, we should start rolling money out mid to late August.
And I just want to clarify, when you say payment, does that go directly to the landlord or to the tenant?
For the rental assistance program, it goes directly to the landlord. So as long as we get the valid information from the landlord, the valid W-9, the valid HC8 form, which is actually the direct deposit form, then we can get the money to once we get all the paperwork done, we can get the money to the landlord in about 5 to 7 business days.
Great. Bobby Miracle, do you want to start with your question?
Keep muting and unmuting, I'm sorry. My question was, with uses, what are the restricted uses that you're going to have that can't apply for this?
Restricted uses. So let's see. We have some SIN uses that aren't there. That's federal money, so we can't do cannabis. We've restricted some things like adult uses, so strip clubs, liquor stores, massage parlors, bail bonds, short-term lenders like payday loans and title loan lenders. Nonprofits are not available to participate in the rental assistance program, but they are able to participate in the protective retrofit program. So that's a difference between that. And convenience stores, I think that's the last one. Convenience stores are not eligible.
Thank you. And Natalie, do you want to ask any questions?
Yes. Hi, Ms. Coleman. I just have a question as far as the Small Business Rental Assistance Program. The funds that were approved are for base rent. Do they also include common area costs or reimbursements to landlords for costs for utilities, things of that nature that they've incurred for upkeep reasons?
It covers CAMs, so anything that is included in the rent. So your base rent, so if it's $1 per square foot and then there's an additional 10 cents for common area, it will include that. It does not include late fees, interest on late payments. It does not include utilities. So it's anything that is considered actual rent. We know there's some triple net leases out there, so some of those bits and pieces that are included in the rent but are broken out in the lease because of the type of lease it is, we will cover that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Chris McGarry.
Okay, great job, Shawnee. You've asked all the questions that I was supposed to ask. You've answered through there. But I did come up with a couple that I just thought of. As far as rent, we manage quite a few projects in Clark County. And I'm proud to say that most of our tenants have been very good, kept a priority on paying the rent. So only about 10% of our portfolio is even behind on rent. On the ones that were kind of putting all their efforts into paying their rent, and maybe they fell behind on some other things, can they prepay going forward any rent with your assistance?
The answer to that is yes and no. So if you look at the application, there is a spot in there for August rent. We stopped accepting applications on August 4th, and most lease agreements provide a little bit of leeway, so the rent technically is not late on August 4th. But if they haven't paid their rent by August 4th, and the landlord, part of their notification, their documentation from their landlord says, hey, they're late on August 4th, we will cover August rent.
Okay. So nothing going forward if they put all their money into supplies and materials and didn't and rent, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So what will probably happen, I don't have an exact date. You heard me reference our first program, which was the Clark County Stabilization Grant. We're likely going to do a second round of that. That is the grant that's working capital. For businesses 1 to 4 employees, it's $5,000. For businesses 5 to 20 employees, it's $10,000. And so we probably won't do a specific, we may not do another specific rent program where we pay the landlord, but there will likely be other programs that they can participate in that will give them money that they can use to pay their rent.
Perfect. Thank you. That's all I have.
Bobby, you have another question?
I do. I received a question from a landlord that said, as a landlord, because they're technically running a business when they're operating their buildings, if they bought a bunch of hand sanitizer stations and things like that to retrofit their buildings, can they submit on that behalf?
Yes. So they are a business, they can participate in the protective retrofit grant. They would be reimbursed up to $5,000.
That's amazing news.
You know, and I was really impressed with the legal aid and the small business assistance programs that you set up, because I think we probably have a lot of tenants that don't know about that, and I think it'll be good for our property managers to know about that so they can let those tenants know that's available to them, because I think for them to try and get this money is almost as difficult as not having the money. So this is really
it's
great.
very challenging. I mean, most of us are business people, and so we deal with some of these things on a regular basis, but you know, Joe the mechanic, he's a really good mechanic. He's probably not that good at accounting. He's probably not that good at forms. And so we wanted to try to, you know, to provide them with as much services, not just put the grant application out there, but then provide them with the necessary resources either to get assistance in applying for the money, or if they need legal help. Like I said, Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada has never done small businesses before. They've only worked with individuals. And so we think it's an honor and an opportunity that they've partnered with us and are willing to support small businesses in this way. So,
are there any like restrictions on who can actually go to get that assistance?
Legal aid does have some, I think, income requirements. I'm not exactly sure of what they are, but if you, their website is, I'll give it to you, it's lacsnprobono.org.
That's it. I'm looking at it on your website.
Okay, / small business. And so again, that's LACSN, so Legal Aid Center of Nevada, probono.org / small business. They can get the details of how they may receive legal assistance.
And then another question I had, so I know with the state of Nevada's rent relief money that they're putting out, you can't also apply and get, well, you can apply, I guess, but you can't get also a grant from, say, Clark County or City of Las Vegas. So if they were to get one of those grants from the state of Nevada, can they still also get the Clark County grant as long as it's not more than $25,000?
We're having that conversation right now. Zach Conine and I have a call later today to try to coordinate all the pieces. Obviously, our rental assistance program is available now, so we'll probably be getting money out the door before he starts his program. So we're trying to coordinate the pieces because all of it's CARES Act money. So there's a concern about, okay, double dipping. And so we need to coordinate and figure that out. So originally our programs weren't available within the city of Las Vegas because they received their own, they had their own money and their own programs. And which is true now why our programs aren't available in say like Henderson and North Las Vegas. They have their own money. they have told us they're putting together their programs. We're just waiting for them to drop. And so if you're in the city of Las Vegas, you would go to the city of Las Vegas and participate in their programs. Obviously, the state, everybody's included in the state. So we just need to coordinate what that actually looks like.
Great. Natalie, Chris, Bobby, do you have any additional questions you would like to ask? And if you didn't catch that website, Dan wouldn't put it in the chat section for you. I'm not seeing any other questions. So if you have any closing remarks you would like to make to us, now's your chance.
No, again, thank you so much for having me. I hope people find this information useful. I hope they find that grants useful. We have a lot of money out there on the table. I don't know if I mentioned it, but we got about, between our 3 grants, we have about $12 million. We've set aside about $4 million specifically for rental assistance and about $4 million for the protective retrofit. And so hopefully we can help a lot of businesses out there that are in need of it. And please feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. My phone number is 702-455-6489. That is direct dial to me. And my email address is shawnee.coleman@clarkcountynv.gov.
Thank you. And just so you know, we will be posting this webinar on YouTube so that you can make sure that your clients and your tenants get this information as well. And thank you everyone for joining us today. And I hope you have a very happy rest of your day, and please stay safe and healthy.